The wedding hall in the historic Georgetown church fell silent the moment the little girl in the pink dress sprinted down the aisle straight toward me. "Mommy Reagan!" Her voice rang out clear and innocent, cutting through the organ music like a siren. The groom's family rose as one, their faces twisting from polite smiles to pure outrage, while my fiancé Derek stood frozen at the altar, his hand still reaching for mine. In that split second, my entire world, the one I had spent years building in the cutthroat arena of Washington politics, collapsed around me, because the child running toward me was proof of the secret I had guarded with my life, the secret that involved my lover Kennedy standing 3 rows back, trying desperately to catch her before it was too late. I dropped to one knee, instinctively catching Lily as she launched herself into my arms, her small hands clutching my veil. "Mommy, I missed you. The nanny said you were busy, but I wanted to see you in the pretty dress." Her words echoed off the vaulted ceilings, and I felt every eye in the room shift from me to Kennedy, who had frozen mid-step, her tailored navy suit suddenly too conspicuous. Derek's mother, Mrs. Harrington, the iron-fisted matriarch of one of the biggest donor families in the party, hissed loud enough for the front pews to hear. "A child? And that woman? This is a setup." The cancellation came fast, no hesitation, no private discussion, just Derek's father signaling the officiant to stop while security moved in to escort guests out. My campaign manager was already on his phone damage control mode, but I knew it was too late. The photos, the whispers, the leaked video someone was already recording on their phone would be everywhere by morning. Later, in the back of the black SUV, speeding away from the church, Kennedy sat beside me, Lily asleep between us, her head on my lap. "I told you the nanny wasn't reliable, Reagan. We should have brought her ourselves." Kennedy's voice was steady, but her knuckles were white on the armrest. I stared out the window at the rain-streaked streets of D.C., the monuments blurred like my future. 5 years ago we had met at a policy summit in the Dirksen Senate office building, both of us gunning for the same influential advisor role on the Senate Finance Committee. She was the brilliant strategist from California with the sharp tongue and sharper instincts. I was the rising star congresswoman from New York with the perfect resume and the perfect fake smile. We clashed in every meeting, trading barbs that slowly turned into stolen glances in the hallway. One late-night argument over tax reform in an empty conference room ended with her backing me against the wall, her lips on mine, and from that moment the line between rivals and lovers blurred forever. We kept it hidden because in this town exposure meant death. I was climbing toward a Senate seat, the kind that required family values, photo ops, and billionaire backers like the Harringtons. Kennedy ran her own consulting firm, advising the very opponents I needed to court. Our relationship lived in safe houses rented under fake names, weekend getaways in the Shenandoah Valley, and late-night encrypted calls. When we decided to adopt Lily 3 years ago through a private agency in Vermont, we told ourselves it was our way of building a real family without risking everything. Lily called us both mommy in private, but the world only knew her as my niece from a distant cousin. Now that lie was burning in front of 200 of the most powerful people in the country. Back at my Georgetown townhouse, the silence was heavier than the rain outside. Kennedy poured 2 glasses of bourbon, handing me one without a word. They canceled the merger too. Derek's father just texted my contact at the firm. "Your campaign war chest just lost its biggest check." I took a long sip, the burn matching the one in my chest. "I can fix this. I'll issue a statement, say Lily is family, nothing more. You stay out of sight for a few weeks." Kennedy's laugh was short and bitter. "Out of sight? Reagan," she called me mommy in front of the cameras. "They already know. The question is, what are you willing to lose to keep your precious seat?" Her words hung between us, the first crack in the foundation we had built on secrecy and survival. I set the glass down, my mind already racing through the damage control playbook I had memorized for moments exactly like this. But deep down I knew this time the playbook might not be enough, because the cost was no longer just my career. It was the woman I loved and the child we had sworn to protect. By sunrise the story was everywhere: Congresswoman Reagan Whitaker's secret love child derails high-profile wedding. The headlines conveniently left out Kennedy's name at first, but the tabloids had already dug up photos of us from last year's congressional retreat. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, campaign donors pulling out one by one, the party leadership demanding a meeting by noon. I stood in my kitchen in yesterday's makeup, scrolling through the damage while Kennedy made coffee, her movements precise and controlled the way they always were when she was calculating her next move. Lily played quietly in the living room with her stuffed bear, oblivious to the storm she had unleashed. "We should have told her not to call us mommy in public," I muttered, more to myself than to Kennedy. She set the mug down in front of me, her green eyes steady. Or maybe we should have stopped pretending this was sustainable. I'm tired of being your dirty secret, Reagan. Lily deserves better. We deserve better. I wanted to argue, but the truth was lodged in my throat like a stone. Our relationship had always been a high-wire act. After that first kiss in the conference room, we spent months dancing around the danger, meeting in hotel bars in Baltimore or hiking trails outside Charlottesville, where no one recognized us. Kennedy pushed for more openness. I pushed back, citing my polling numbers, my future in the Senate. When Lily came into our lives through the adoption, we both cried in the lawyer's office, signing the papers under fake identities. She became the glue and the greatest risk. Now the glue was pulling everything apart. My chief of staff arrived at 8 with a stack of briefing books and a grim face. The Harringtons are calling it a breach of trust. They're endorsing your opponent in the primary, unless you denounce the rumors immediately. Kennedy stood in the doorway listening, her arms crossed. I felt the familiar tug, the one that always chose ambition first. Draft the statement. Say Lily is my goddaughter and the wedding stress caused confusion. Kennedy is a longtime friend, nothing more. The words tasted like ash, but I signed off on them anyway. Kennedy didn't argue, she simply nodded and left the room, taking Lily with her for a walk. That afternoon I held the press conference on the steps of the Capitol, the cameras flashing as I read the carefully worded denial. Inside my chest something fractured, watching Kennedy watch from the sidelines, her face a mask of professional calm. Later that night in the townhouse, she packed an overnight bag. I have a client meeting in Chicago tomorrow. I'll take Lily with me. You need space to fix your image. Her voice was neutral, but her eyes held the weight of every compromise we had ever made. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Don't. Not tonight. You made your choice, Reagan. Now live with it. The door closed softly behind her, and for the first time in 5 years the house felt empty in a way no political loss ever had. The next week blurred into strategy sessions and late-night calls. I leaned on every favor I had collected in 10 years on the Hill, promising committee seats, pork barrel projects, anything to keep the donors from fleeing. Meanwhile, Kennedy worked from Chicago, sending me encrypted updates on Lily's kindergarten applications and the media leaks she was quietly suppressing through her network. But the distance grew. A story surfaced about a prominent strategist linked to me, and suddenly Kennedy's biggest client, the one funding her firm's expansion, pulled out, citing reputational risk. She called me at 2 a.m, her voice tight. That client was going to take me to the next level, Reagan. The level where I wouldn't need to hide anymore. I apologized, offered to make calls, but she cut me off. Save it for your campaign. I'm done being collateral damage. The line went dead and I sat in the dark, realizing that every step I took to save my career was costing me pieces of the only real life I had ever wanted. The primary was 3 months away and the polls had tanked overnight. My opponent, a slick-back tech millionaire with no skeletons, was surging on the family values message, while I scrambled to rebuild my image. I threw myself into town halls and fundraisers, smiling through gritted teeth while inside the hollow feeling grew. Kennedy had returned from Chicago, but the warmth between us was gone, replaced by careful professionalism. We still shared the townhouse for Lily's sake, but we slept in separate rooms and spoke in coded sentences around the child. One evening after a brutal debate prep session, I found her in the study reviewing polling data, her laptop screen glowing on her face. You're down 8 points in the suburbs, Reagan. The Harringtons are funding attack ads linking you to unstable personal life. I sank into the chair across from her, the exhaustion of the last month crashing down. Then I need you to help me counter it. Your firm has the best opposition research team in town. She closed the laptop slowly, her expression unreadable. My firm is bleeding clients because of you. But fine. For Lily, I'll do it. That night we worked side by side the way we used to when we first fell in love, trading ideas over takeout Thai food. For a few hours the old spark flickered, and when Lily called out from her room for a bedtime story, we both went together, tucking her in with the same lullaby we had sung since she was 2. In the hallway afterward, Kennedy paused, her hand brushing mine accidentally. Remember the night we decided to adopt her? You said nothing would ever come between us. I swallowed hard, the memory sharp. I still mean it. I just need time to stabilize the campaign. She stepped closer, her breath warm against my cheek. Time is the one thing we don't have anymore. Every day you choose the Senate over us is another day Lily grows up thinking love is something you hide. The next morning a new crisis hit. A former staffer leaked an old email chain where I had asked Kennedy to discreetly kill a bill that threatened my district's biggest employer. The headline read, "Whitaker used secret lover to rig legislation." The Ethics Committee opened an inquiry, and my campaign chairman advised me to cut all ties with Kennedy publicly. I stared at the memo for 30 minutes, the cold calculation. I had always relied on warring with the part of me that still reached for her in the dark. When Kennedy walked into the kitchen for coffee, I handed her the memo without a word. She read it, her face paling. "So this is how it ends. You throw me under the bus to save your seat." I opened my mouth to explain the political necessity, but the look in her eyes stopped me. She set the paper down carefully. "I loved you, Reagan. Not the congresswoman, the woman who used to laugh at my terrible jokes and hold me when the world felt too heavy. But that woman is gone." She walked out taking her laptop, and the last shred of trust we had left. The ethics hearing was brutal, 3 hours of pointed questions and flashing cameras, while I sat stone-faced repeating, "No comment," on advice of counsel. Outside the Capitol, Kennedy waited in the car with Lily, the engine running like a getaway driver. When I slid into the back seat, Lily threw her arms around me. "Mommy, you look so brave on TV." Kennedy didn't speak until we were halfway home. The inquiry could drag on for months. My firm lost 2 more contracts today. "I'm thinking of taking Lily to California for a while, give you space to fight without us in the crosshairs." The words landed like a punch. California meant her family, her old life, the one she had left for me. I gripped the door handle, fighting the panic rising in my throat. "Don't. Please. We can fix this together." She glanced at me in the rearview mirror, her eyes tired. "Together? You haven't let us be together since the day we met. You built your whole career on the idea that I was disposable." That night after Lily was asleep, we sat on the rooftop terrace, the city lights of D.C. spread out like a battlefield. Kennedy poured wine, the bottle from the vineyard we had visited on our first secret weekend. "Remember when you told me you would give it all up if it came down to us or the Senate?" I nodded, the memory vivid. "I meant it then." She laughed softly without humor. "But you don't mean it now. And I can't keep waiting for the version of you that chooses me." She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a folder. Inside were adoption papers transferring primary custody to her. "I'm not taking her away completely. But if you keep choosing power, I need to protect her from the fallout." My hands shook as I read the documents, the legal language cold and final. For the first time, the ambition that had driven me for 15 years felt like a cage instead of a ladder. I wanted to tear the papers up, to tell her I would hold a press conference tomorrow and come out swinging with the truth. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I whispered, "Give me 1 more month. After the primary, I swear things will change." She studied me for a long moment, then stood. 1 month, Reagan. Then I file the papers." The next 4 weeks were a whirlwind of rallies and backroom deals. I clawed my way back in the polls by leaning into the single mother fighting for working families, narrative carefully omitting Kennedy's role. She helped behind the scenes, feeding me opposition research and refining my messaging the way only she could. But every night when the staff left, the distance between us grew. Lily noticed, asking why Mommy Kennedy slept in the guest room. I lied again, and again, the lies stacking like bricks around my heart. On the eve of the primary, Kennedy handed me a flash drive. "Everything you need to bury your opponent's tax evasion story. Use it or don't. But after tomorrow, I'm done waiting." I took the drive, our fingers brushing, and for a second the old electricity surged. Then she pulled away, and the moment was gone. Primary night, the ballroom at the Mayflower Hotel buzzed with nervous energy. I stood on stage accepting victory by a razor-thin margin, the crowd chanting my name, while confetti fell like snow. In the green room, Kennedy waited with Lily, both of them in matching red, white, and blue dresses. The cameras captured the perfect family photo op, but when the lights dimmed, Kennedy's expression turned serious. "Congratulations, Senator-elect. Now about that month you asked for." I pulled her into the private suite, the adrenaline still coursing through me. "I did it. We did it. The general election is mine to lose, and now I can finally breathe. We can tell the truth." She searched my face, hope flickering for the first time in months. "You mean it this time?" I nodded, pulling her close, the scent of her perfume bringing back every stolen moment we had shared. For one perfect hour we were just Reagan and Kennedy, two women in love planning a future without shadows. But politics never lets you breathe. At 3 in the morning my phone exploded with alerts the Harringtons had leaked a dossier proving Kennedy had used her firm to funnel dark money into my campaign. The story painted us as corrupt lovers rigging the system. My victory speech was still trending when the party chairman called demanding I denounce Kennedy immediately or lose the nomination. I stared at the phone, my victory turning to ash in my mouth. Kennedy stood in the doorway, having seen the headlines, her face pale. So this is the choice again. Me or the seat? I wanted to say her name to choose us, but the words that came out were, I need time to manage the fallout. Her laugh was hollow. Time ran out, Reagan. I'm filing for custody tomorrow. Lily and I are on the noon flight to San Francisco. She packed while I stood paralyzed. The cold decision I had made so many times finally costing me everything that mattered. By dawn the townhouse was quiet except for Lily's sleepy voice asking where Mommy Kennedy was going. I held her tight, the weight of every betrayal I had chosen pressing down until I couldn't breathe. The custody hearing was swift and brutal. Kennedy's lawyers presented the evidence of my unstable lifestyle, the endless campaign hours, the public denials. I sat across the courtroom watching the woman I loved fight for our daughter with the same precision she once used to fight for me. The judge granted her primary custody with visitation rights for me every other weekend. Outside on the courthouse steps, Kennedy paused, her suitcase at her feet, Lily's hand in hers. This isn't revenge, Reagan. This is survival. For her and for me. I wanted to beg, to promise the world, but the words felt hollow after so many broken ones. Instead I knelt in front of Lily, kissing her forehead. Mommy loves you both. Always. Kennedy's eyes met mine one last time, the love still there beneath the pain. Then they walked away toward the waiting car, and the life I had forced them into without me. Months later I took my Senate seat, the swearing-in ceremony perfect on camera. The gallery applauded, but the seat felt empty. Late at night in my new office, I stared at the photo of the three of us on my desk, the only evidence that any of it had been real. I had won the power, I had sacrificed everything for, yet every victory tasted like loss. The scandals faded, the polls recovered, but the hole in my chest never did. Kennedy built a new life in California, her firm thriving without the shadow of DC. Lily thrived too, sending me drawings of their beach house and asking when I would visit. I flew out every other weekend playing the role of weekend mom, while Kennedy watched from the doorway, polite and distant. Each goodbye carved another piece from my heart. Sitting alone on the Senate floor after a late vote, I finally understood the price of every cold decision I had made. The woman who had once chosen ambition over love was now surrounded by power and utterly alone. The question that haunted me every night remained the same one I still wrestle with when the lights go out and the city sleeps. Is true love worth sacrificing everything for? True or false?